Dear fellow rabbit hole dwellers, sounds like a story time, doesn't it? We had Ivan back on the show, second time coming on, the first guest who's come on the second time. Mate, we went some deep rabbit hole in terms of language, use cases for Bitcoin, his articles, and the perspective of time and value. It was I don't know, my mind's still spinning, Joel. You need to sort of like stop my head spinning and sort of like tell me what you took away from it.
It was definitely more filled than what I anticipated because I thought like,
Mm,
oh, he's back. We'll cover a few things and then we'll be
yeah.
done. But it was really detailed. Great analogies with his Bitcoin magazine articles and why he decided to write those. So I think just another one of those episodes where you can kick back with a cup of tea or a coffee and listen in and relax.
Yeah, so why not this? Why am I rambling? Why am I stumbling on my words all of a sudden, Joel? Mate, because my head's still spinning. But anyway, guys, let's get into it, and let's always stay curious.
This is the practical thing if you don't need to introduce new guests, because Ivan is our first guest actually returning to the show. How have you been, Ivan? How's your day looked like? Busy?
Oh, I would say not busy. It looks awesome. Like life is beautiful. So sometimes busy, sometimes not. But if you're busy, that means that you're doing something.
That's true. That's true. That's always better than doing
Yeah,
nothing.
yeah.
So
But
tell me, Ivan.
it's awesome. Definitely 1 year deep in Breeze and Lightning Network and everything Bitcoin. It's much more gratitude on my side about everything that every single Bitcoiner is actually doing, contributing
Mm.
to the space. So I can't have any regrets. I can't have any like bad days or something. Sometimes I get tired, but you recover fast and it just fuels you with more and more energy.
I'm curious because since working full time in Bitcoin, I mean, I kind of already worked full time in Bitcoin. I still had a few fiat clients. Do you also ever have days where you go like at the end of the day, I'm not gonna check Twitter again. I'm not gonna read upon that thing. I could read upon, but I could also do it tomorrow. Because sometimes I need like a proper checkout. Like, okay, I don't care what happens. I'll just check it tomorrow or after the weekend or these kind of things. Or do you regularly keep in touch?
Uh, I don't have really days off. I just structured my life what I want it to look like. I think one of the differences with you is that in my engagement, I don't engage a lot on Twitter. So that's one of the things, but I definitely watch podcasts, I read articles, I listen to a lot of stuff. That doesn't drain me. Twitter, it's a strange thing. I go on nostr, there it's a bit happier, but definitely, probably it's something around that. I'm not a content creator, so I don't need to use it. I like long form, deep analysis and thinking, and in podcasts and not sound bites or something that it's 20. 280 characters or whatever. It's not really my medium, but I check what's happening. Maybe it's a support case, maybe it's something new. So yeah, it's just a small percentage out of my day. Let's say it like that.
Mate, listening to you for the last couple of minutes, it seems like life has been a breeze for you since we last spoke. I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry, but mate, it was. I was thinking about because I knew also we were speaking today, and I was thinking about the things we spoke about last time. I looked over our last video, and one of the things I was curious about, and I maybe want to explore a little bit later in this chat is, what's changed for you since last we spoke? Because how long's it been now, Joel? It's been like nearly 6 months. Was it 6 months? Maybe even more, right?
I
Yeah.
checked. We did the recording 11 months ago and released
Yeah,
it in
that's
early
right.
June. So it's been a
Yeah,
time.
because mate, the reason why I'm sort of rambling it really is because my mind's always bloody changing in the Bitcoin space. One week I think one thing, and then the more I look into it, the more I sort of like delve down the whatever rabbit hole I'm in, I start forming different opinions. And what I guess I suppose as we delve deeper into this rabbit hole and listening to your previous one, I'm wondering if there's been any more sort of changes or in-depth thinking that you've come across since then, because I know you're doing quite a lot of work in terms of writing long form articles and things like that now. So what's going on with you down this rabbit hole, bro?
Yeah, I would say one of the topics is definitely because of my work in Breeze is around payments and how things will evolve there. But just to touch upon Bitcoin, my bigger realization is that Bitcoin is something that we try to describe. Bitcoin is something, but the only true answer Bitcoin is like Bitcoin is Bitcoin. And it is a reality that we are trying to find the proper language, the proper view, and whatever we come up with, it's going to be limited. Just like if we say Bitcoin is a store of value. Yeah, but true, but partial view. Bitcoin is digital gold. Again, true, but partial reality. And if you expand, let's say Bitcoin is money. Yes, true. Bitcoin is an electrical system. Now people start to realize that, yes, you can use this property. Bitcoin is a heating system. Now even this market is going to evolve. And all of those are true. And that is the reality. Just like if we observe the universe, you don't change the universe, just your perception, what you realize, whether it's true or not, that is the only thing that change. And it really fits with Bitcoin doesn't change, it changes you, just because of this property, because we are observing reality and trying to get the proper language for it or description or whatever. But if you say Bitcoin is something, my realization is that you're putting a limit on your understanding of what Bitcoin is. Because if you say Bitcoin, I'm trying to realize what Bitcoin can do, what are all the properties, that is a more discovery type of approach, observing reality so you can use it properly. Because if you say Bitcoin is money, you're going to completely miss the electrical system. If you say Bitcoin is a hash rate or whatever, you're putting a limit, but you're not going to change reality. You're just putting a limit on the understanding. That on the Bitcoin itself. And that's why I stopped really talking about what Bitcoin is to people. And I just give them an experience to how you can use Bitcoin. And if that experience is better than what they do, I found out that if I say Bitcoin is something, I have to defend my position. But if I give them the experience of what is better, they have to defend why they don't use it. And that's a switch in the dynamic, which is something that is really nice. But again, the other thing, and I'll leave it for questions, but is really about payments and how that whole market, the instant settlement of money, is going to change, and really delve deep into it.
Bloody boomer. Now you two froze for some reason, so I thought it might be an issue on my end. It might be, but we'll see how we get on. But mate, everything you said, to be honest, is music to my ears, because I completely align with everything you said. And like, we get stuck in these arguments: is it store value, medium exchange? Is it this? Is it that? What's this use case? What's this? And we spend a lot of time sort of arguing, debating. I think there is some value in doing that. I think there is. It's worthwhile having a conversation, because through conversation and debate and discourse, we come to understanding and see different perspectives. But sometimes we really get fucking locked in and dig our heels in too hard without exploring other opportunities, other perspectives, and we just sort of like get stuck in our own sort of what we believe is true and what Bitcoin is. And I don't think we could for as long as I now live in this world, my finite time, as long as I live it out, however that may be, I think I will never truly understand Bitcoin, but I'll be forever curious about it. I'll be forever sort of understanding it and seeing how it evolves over time, because we don't understand quite yet what the future use cases are going to be. And it's interesting what you were saying, actually, Ivan, about maybe there's a language issue here, because I think you hear a lot of people out there in the normie land sort of talking bad about capitalism all the time, and some people sort of align Bitcoin with free market capitalism. But even if, is it even that? Is it Austrian economics? Is it a combination of the two? What is it? You know, and people sort of like, with their sort of judgment or negative experience of what they perceive capitalism to be in this fiat environment, when we start saying Bitcoin is a free sort of marketplace and all that sort of stuff, it's already tarnished by their sort of preconceived ideas what capitalism is. Does that make sense? And maybe we need to sort of like approach it at a slightly different angle here, so people don't just sort of like get put off by it.
Yeah, I think we get stuck again with this word is. Bitcoin is not that. Bitcoin has properties like other stuff. But when you say it like that, you're not locked, because you're going to try to fit Bitcoin into a medium of exchange, into store of value, and but you're not going to change Bitcoin. What really you can explain, it has these properties that is like a store of value. It's like this, it's like that, but it's not limited to that, because when you say is, then you try to defend your story, and you're not discovering the reality, because that token debate is very useful if you're open to really actually like observing the universe. If you observe reality, you're going to try to find the language, what is the most appropriate for it. But if you try to stamp this language into what you're observing, you're actually not you're not observing, you're projecting something. And that's not the right way to do this, because every single invention or discovery that we found, it was unknown. So there wasn't a language around it. The language had to evolve to describe this new thing that we found, this new thing that we invented or discovered. And that's the proper way to do it. But if you say, oh, I understand the fiat structures and all the language around it, and I'm going to impose it on Bitcoin, again, it would fit somewhere, but that's not reality. And that's why the debate, that's how I think about it right now. Because if you come from the observing reality and trying to find a proper language, then you're open to test your language. Is it correct? Is it wrong? Is it this? Is it that? And naturally, we're probably going to invent new words that don't exist in our language, because that's how the language evolves. Because we discovered something, there isn't a word for it. So we need to assign a word for it, and then the network effect ossifies, and okay, this is that. Because I was thinking, even every single word, if I right now try to describe any random real thing, what is a car? If I say a car, because you've seen the reality, what is a car, now you can picture it. But if you've never seen a car, I could never explain it with just words. And again, one is observing reality, the other thing is trying to talk fiction into reality.
Yeah, just one more comment. That's excellent. I completely agree once again with you. And before I hand it over to Joelle, I just wanted to sort of like ride and support on the back of what you just said with language, and that is, depending on the type of language you speak, depends on the way you perceive the world, even, right? Whether you've got some sort of positive language, or, if French is different from Spanish, and the way we actually even perceive our environment around us and even describe it, right? And I was listening to, I don't want to get too down this rabbit hole, it's just more of a sort of a memory of mine of recently watching a video by a language or linguistic expert. And they were talking about these Aboriginal tribes. And if you would go to them and sort of like talk to them and ask them how you are, they just, it's not, that's inconceivable as a question for them, because they talk about language in terms of compass points and directions. And it just sort of like encapsulates for me the importance of language and creating and evolving new language in this new abstract technology. But that's just a comment. I don't know if you want to say anything on the back of that, Ivan, but I'm keen to sort of like,
Yeah. There are
ask
even
Joel.
tribes that have so many words about green because they live in the jungle, and they even see all types of green, but they don't see something that we do see because of our monitors or something like that. And if you see something which is real, you're going to invent all the languages for all the nuances of green. And the exact same, like the Eskimos has, I don't know how many words about snow because they observe reality, and we have one because yeah, we may distinguish here and there, but that is not our reality, so we don't need to make those small distinctions. But again, the language evolved around the reality and not the other way around because it was useful. And again, if reality is wrong, uh, actually, reality cannot be wrong. The language that we use to describe that reality can be wrong. So we're in the discovering all the properties because again, Bitcoin is Bitcoin. We're just trying to grasp all the properties of it.
Yeah, and speaking of reality, you know, we can actually link this perfectly back to Lightning because before we hit record, we spoke about, you know, the next bull cycles and these kind of things, and sort of how people are actually now being pushed into Lightning, and that they now, for the first time ever, probably realize like, oh, okay, there's Wallet of Satoshi, which is a Bitcoin ICU, just an internal database entry, and then there are proper self-custody solutions working for a self-custody company. I see the struggles every day where you have to think about so many moving parts, and I'm not talking about the complexity of Lightning, but how to present this to the user, how to actually take it into their reality. So if someone just wants to use Lightning because they want to send Bitcoin faster to a friend or something, or they want to pay in shop, or they want to accept it online, whatever, you have to think about all of these extra steps. And suddenly that use case becomes from like something as simple as payments to like, oh, it has to find this way or that way. How do you guys go about Breeze? And you personally, Ivan, what do you think we need to do better there for actually coming up with these solutions and to help people?
Well, I do very much agree with Roy, our CEO, that we just need to bring the technology to the people because, again, we need to bring the reality to them and not just some story about what it is. Because Wallet of Satoshi says that it's a Lightning wallet, but the properties of Lightning are not their main use case. The main use case is something that is kind of layer 3, that if I send you, let's say, from my Wallet of Satoshi to your, I don't send you a Bitcoin, you don't receive a Bitcoin, and we didn't use Lightning. So when you say that to somebody that says, oh, I'm using Lightning with Wallet of Satoshi, they might be shocked. But it's not that they, again, change the reality, what happened, just their perception will change. And when we bring the reality to the people, then they will be forced to observe, to see what are the costs, and to actually understand it. Because right now the reality is we're going to trade a receipt from my Wallet of Satoshi to yours, and Bitcoin doesn't move. Really, just their internal database says, oh, I don't owe any Bitcoin to or any sats to Ivan, now I owe them to Joel. And that's what really happens. But because the thing that people see is just a number on a screen, that is their reality. But when we put the real Lightning non-custodial, which is real Bitcoin, into their reality, now they're going to hit walls here and there. Ask, why do I have a fee when I receive? Lightning doesn't think. And when you say, oh, you have a fee when you receive because you're opening a channel. Why do I have to open a channel? Yeah, because you really want your own Bitcoin. You don't want, when wallet of Satoshi gets attacked or whatever happens with the company, you having to have the fiat infrastructure into Bitcoin, and happening the same with FTX. FTX was supposed to was presenting a number on a screen that says Bitcoin, but behind it, it was not. And that's what's going to happen, I think, in this cycle, that the non-custodial solutions are adopted a lot by companies because of the incentives of the companies. Because right now, if one company wants to implement a global payment network, the only thing that they can do is implement Lightning in a non-custodial fashion. Because even if they try to do it like, let's say, Strike, which is the, in my opinion, appropriate way to go about it, they actually hire a lawyer. They go to every jurisdiction, and that's why their scope is limited. And again, not even talking about the risk of the honeypot, what they have, but they are building Bitcoin adoption, but through fiat infrastructure. That's their play, and that's again important, but it's different than actual Bitcoin. But actual Bitcoin, yeah, it's technically more hard to build. There are frictions more, but because it's real, and because companies don't want to have that cost. Not every company is a Strike company that can raise $80 million in USA. Some companies are 2 people in Africa or something, and now they can plug a non-custodial solution that requires no lawyers, no nothing. It's just a technology, and they don't need any type of license because they don't hold any funds for any user. They are holding only their own funds, and now, but they're connected to the whole network, and that's why the appeal is to the companies right now. But when companies implement things like this, they're going to put different, same numbers, but different backend to the real users, and that's how people, I think, are going to realize what Lightning is this and next cycle much more, because right now the incentive really is into the companies.
Yeah, most definitely. And you touched on a very good point. Again, I see this in my everyday work. Currently, especially in Europe, it's very hard to build a Bitcoin-only business. Because at one point, you start out, maybe you're 2 co-founders, you hire your first couple of devs, then you hopefully get on the marketing person soon, because I know this, toxic maxis, you hate marketing tricks, but guess what? This is how users come on. Maybe there's a little bit of personal frustration in there, but bear in mind or keep with me. And then you run into this issue. Shit, if I want to do it 100% custodial, non-custodial, sorry, I need to have a license. Okay, I need to get lawyers involved. Lawyers are expensive. Lawyers are also the ones that charge you for every single second and every single thing they touch. Then you get moving. Okay, we need to raise rounds. We need to raise funds. We need to do this. We need to do that, right? There are different options. Like you can go to a Bitcoin OG, which I know a lot of Lightning companies, for example, decided instead of raising capital, buying Bitcoin, and having all of the legal and tax issues. But then you get to that point where you go, okay, now I have to talk with the regulators or just the people in the suits in a big city in Europe or America, wherever, and I have to come up with a concept to show to them, listen, we are different than an FTX. We are different than all of these things. And this is probably the biggest impact it has on the growth of these companies, because you can't build, you can't ship. And if you can't build and ship, people will not use your tech. So it's this ever-fighting circle where you have to be very consistent, very persistent, and you always have to keep up. But having said that, solutions like your SDK, and I'm sure in the next, let's call it, say, 4 years, we'll see many different SDKs, because suddenly these companies maybe need to pivot or find out like, hey, we got a great tech team in-house, we can actually offer this as well, and we don't need to, build everything customized, or everyone has the opportunity to get on. But in your day-to-day life, because I think you are a bit more, you are B2C, but also more B2B, right, Ivan? Like Breeze is also speaking to a lot of Bitcoin companies.
We are B to B to C.
Yeah.
That's
Okay. So
our model.
you have the effect afterwards to the customers. Then, is it for you guys also a struggle to then? I don't want to say convince, but like show Bitcoin companies like, hey, these are actually the steps. If you implement them, you get Lightning onboarded, you get proper Lightning with all the challenges, but that's why we build, right? That's why we try to figure out. Or is it pretty much if companies want to have Lightning, they come to you, they get going, and there are no issues?
I would say if there's a key person in the company and he's a Bitcoiner, the conversation is easy. He already understands, but he was searching for, or she, sorry, for a solution. And that's, I would say, the easy conversation. The thing that is harder if you don't have that base of knowledge understood by the person. Then it gets increased. Then let's say we go into the crypto market, that they say, oh, we are the technology, but they don't really get into the reality why Bitcoin is the only thing, but they want to revolutionize their experience with whatever they have. And the leap is a little harder, but still they're trying to have a payment network for all their users. And still it's an adoption curve. And the hardest thing is somebody that has not done any work. And then you just have to get them through the experience. And one of the things that is very shocking when we go, because right now in Breeze we have a business development lady, and she goes and talks and says, if you implement our SDK, we are not going to charge you anything. Like there is no subscription, there is no anything. Not only that, but even if you become a Lightning service provider, and let's say, for example, like a Relay, when they onboarded 100,000 users, now all those 100,000 users are going to need to open a channel, which means somebody needs to put Bitcoin from the first layer, from on-chain, needs to open channels for all those users. And that requires liquidity. That requires Bitcoin that needs to be moved into the second layer so it can open those channels. And when you say, okay, if you want to become this liquidity provider or this Lightning service provider, you can be, and it's also free. We're not going to charge you anything, but you need to bring your own Bitcoin, and we're going to connect with you. So when you open the channels to all those 100,000 users, the payment is actually go through their node. It's going to go through our node, and we are going to split the fees. We're not going to take all of the fees, but we're going to split. And everything is absolutely free through all the spectrums. And that really breaks their brain a lot of the time, because why is it free? It is free because the fees that Breeze is making is embedded in the Lightning Network protocol. We are not going to split the fees with somebody. We're not going to charge companies or those Lightning service providers, but we either going to split the fees or we're going to earn it 100% if there is no Lightning service provider. And they use us as a Lightning service provider. And again, if you make them think why, they're open to question more and understand. But the great thing is that because it's free, it's very easy to say, okay, the only hurdle is how hard is it really to adopt? Because if I want to be a Lightning service provider and it really sounds cool, oh, I have 10 Bitcoin, and I'm going to earn on that Bitcoin, that's really great, but you gotta have Bitcoin. You cannot be currently with our models under 25 Bitcoin. I think that's the threshold right now. But on the other side, if you're a developer, you have to have a platform. You cannot be, okay, we are also going to give you the users. So you have to have a platform or an app or something that you actually provide and developing skills. So that's how we actually scale and merge all of our resources, because Breeze doesn't want to be doesn't want to limit the Bitcoin adoption by our team's capacity. But now that we can offer this SDK, the developers can focus on the UX for the users or the UI or anything, and they can develop all the use cases, whether it's insurance, whether it's a game, whether it's payment, whether it's a broker, whether it's every single type of use case out there. They can focus on that, and we take care of the actual payments. And that's how we envision it. I don't know, I talked a lot. I hope it makes sense, but that's how we really view it. And it just, again, it's attracting because it's free it doesn't cost money. I'm sorry, but the cost is really you have to put the work on the other side. But you don't need to pay a subscription or pay exorbitant fees for Visa or something. We don't capture you in any sorts of way. So even if you decide, you can actually use our SDK without even talking to us. Almost, let's say it would be useful because we can guide you, but you can just take the code and insert it into your app.
We were talking about language earlier, and you know, a lot of your technical knowledge is a different language to me, and it just incentivizes me really to sort of like really polish my skills or my knowledge around Lightning. But it makes me think a few things, like, you know, we keep saying, or I hear a lot on socials about there needs to be more building on Bitcoin and needs to be more attractive incentives to come and build on Bitcoin. And you're just an example of what you're doing at Breeze. It's already happening, right? You're trying to you know, harness the power of Lightning in make it user friendly. But and we also sort of complain a lot about the ease of getting into doing something. Sometimes you need to put the work in. Sometimes you really need to sort of have, you know, a few more extra steps than you would like, in terms of, you know, because we're used to the convenience of fiat money going into a bank and just sort of like instant kind of, you know, intermediary can sort that one out. But we actually have to really get clued up and educated, I think, on our own autonomy when it comes to handling, you know, money, for example. So I don't know if you want to say anything about that.
The fiat infrastructure is designed in such a way after barter and after we stopped using physical things, because physical things are real. With paper, because money is an abstraction, but we used real things to transact in this abstraction. Now that money is completely digital and it's completely disconnecting more and more from reality, it's becoming more and more valueless of it. But when the fiat infrastructure is done, you're giving the responsibility to somebody else about your money, whether it's to keep it, whether it's to transact about it. And the dynamic there is, because you're giving the responsibility away, there's the benefit is that I'm not responsible. So if something bad happens, I'm going to sue you, and you are liable for this. Whether you succeed or not, it doesn't matter, but that's the dynamic. And in Bitcoin, it's completely reversed if you use it in a non-custodial fashion. And the same in the Lightning Network. If you really hold your Bitcoin, I am responsible. So if I make a mistake, I cannot go complain somewhere else. That means that I did not understand reality correctly, and I had a price to pay for it. And the same is with the Lightning. What is the cost for opening a channel? But the same, if I don't use the non-custodial app for, let's say, 30, 40, 50 days, and we decide, okay, we're going to close your channel because you're an inactive user, and we are going to put that Bitcoin into an active user because we earn fees from transactions. We don't earn fees from Bitcoin sitting. That is our business model. And now you are forced to realize this, because after right now that I handle a lot of the support cases in Breeze, every time that Bitcoin price pumps up, there are new wave of users remembering, oh, I had Bitcoin in Breeze, but my channels are closed 2 years ago or 1 year ago, and I have to explain why. But it's very useful for every single one of those users, because they're facing reality and they're going to learn. But this is coming for a lot more people now, with a lot more companies onboarding the proper way. They're not giving the responsibility to any third party. You're responsible. So if you're really responsible, you just have to learn how. If you don't learn how, sometimes you will pay for it. That is nobody's fault but our own.
Yeah, totally. And we kind of have to learn the skills that were not given to us, right? Through multiple generations of lack of education around these things, and nanny states, and everyone's sort of looking after you for your safety. And it's a really part of our, I believe, part of our transition into the future of hyper Bitcoinization. Really, it's a necessary journey, and I appreciate all the knowledge and hard work that you have. But I want to sort of move on to your Bitcoin magazine series of instant settlement, and some fascinating opinion pieces there. Where do you want to start with that? Because you've got quite a few articles on there. So over to you.
I would say how I realized the problem. I realized the problem long before I was a Bitcoiner. In all my fiat jobs, I found the problem that if you hire a person, an employee, they figure out in the first 1 or 2 months what to do, and then try to play the game. What is the minimum amount of work that I can do so I'm not fired? And on the other side, the employers, the owners, the managers want those same employees to do as much work as possible for as little money as possible. So that's a direct conflict. And I recognize that problem, again, 15 years or so. And I was thinking, what is the root cause of it? And once I started working at Breeze, I realized that the problem really is the actual payment, thinking around it. And not really the payment, but what are you paying for? Those workers do not receive money or value for their work. They receive value for their time. And now everything made sense to me, because that same worker, they are not stupid. Maybe I was stupid in that environment because I wanted to outwork everybody, but they are actually optimizing their personal profits, because to optimize personal profit when you receive money for time, that means I don't do any work, so no exertion of any kind, and the time passes anyway. So I'm going to play that game. So that whole fiat mentality, they're basically trying to be a central bank type of thinking, and they're trying, how do I get something for nothing? That is the game. Time is going to pass anyway, so they optimize around that, but their cost is really, how do I work a little bit so I'm not fired, because that's their actual cost. So I recognize it. And now that everything made sense, and thinking through that prism, now that we can actually have instant settlement, whether it's with Lightning Network, or when we scale up to 8 billion people, it's going to be third layers or fourth layers potentially and something. Now we're unlocking this mechanism, and you can actually pay for work done. And I was thinking, let's say that you're a salesman in a store currently in a fiat position, you receive a wage monthly, weekly, or whatever, and how many shirts you sell, it really doesn't matter. Maybe they give you a bonus or not, but it really doesn't matter. But with the Lightning Network, I don't think there's a killer app, but my personal opinion, there's a killer feature. And the killer feature is split payment. And now I'm selling a shirt in that store, and I can split the payment however I like. And that same employee, you know who sold it. And let's say for everything that they sell, they are going to receive 10, 15, 20, whatever the margin they can afford, but a direct payment to that personal wallet, to that person, that they did the actual work. And now the managers, the employers, the company, and the employees receive money for the exactly same thing. So the whole system is going to align to that same goal, because that person that is actually folding clothes and making busy and not actually doing work is now going to think, how do I sell the most amount of shirts, pants, whatever it is, so I make the most amount of money. And you don't need to actually manage people in that environment. They are going to self-organize, because if I'm in that same store and I outsell you, I'm going to receive a different amount of money than you. And that was the thing that is actually also discouraging in the fiat system, because if somebody is the top producer in that company and outsells everybody, why the hell is he receiving the same amount of money at the end of the month as the most lazy person? It should be proportional. And that was my initial breakthrough for the articles, but let's stop here and leave it for questions.
I don't really have any. Well, I have two comments. A, for all the communism Bitcoiners, this is why your thinking fails. If you want proof, go to a communist country and tell me that it works or it doesn't. And secondly, I think this goes then much more further than probably what a lot of Bitcoiners also think about in their daily life. Because for most, it's, hodl, we're all going to be rich one day. No one wants to admit that they check the price, but most of them do. And obviously, when it pumps, there is positive segments. Yeah, same. I mean, I just need to check it at least on a bi-daily basis for the content I write, because I often have to denominate in how much it is worth. But yeah, it sort of gives a little bit of a paradigm shift to see what the possibilities are. There's a lot of work involved, obviously, but this doesn't mean that if we don't implement successfully, that there could be a better future. And this is probably why most who are building in the ecosystem, like really trying to, nail Lightning, nail brokerage, nail all of these things, inherents, whatever, actually get up every day and trying to do a better version than the one they sent in the previous day.
Yeah, and it's really about when I had that initial breakthrough, then I thought, if that is the problem, and now that we have completely new system, what would be the emergent behavior of that completely new system if I completely not ignore but disregard the fiat thinking? How would I optimize my payments, my company, my work, my everything, using this new system in the most efficient, most beneficial for me and for the whole ecosystem way? How do I do it? And then I started thinking, okay, well, paying for time, if I ignore it, how would this new system transform industries? And I was thinking, okay, let's think about the construction. Construction, there's a lot of work done. You're building a wall, you're putting windows, you're building a roof, you're doing alleys, you're doing all sorts of things. And now you can directly link the payment in a form of value in Bitcoin to the exact work that you're doing. Maybe it's not going to be a brick by brick cases. This is, I would say, too far, but a task by task basis. Let's say if somebody builds a wall, now you don't need to manage them. You say, you build this wall, you receive this amount of money, and you leave them. Obviously, the person that optimizes the task and finishes them faster and in a higher quality is going to receive the money faster. And the faster that you finish one task, you're going to move on to the next task, and you're going to optimize your time to receive the money, and you're chasing the real stuff. You're not chasing some fiat imaginary thing that you think it's real. And maybe you don't work 8 hours and receive the same thing. Maybe now from the most lazy person, you'll think, oh, I can have twice amount of money for twice less time than before, and you say, I'll take the day off. The company is happier because they receive even more output than before. You're happier, and that whole system, it's again self-organizing with this new reality that's coming. The other thing that I was thinking is, even now the technology is out for podcasting. You can split the payment between Joe, with Ian, with everything, with the hosting provider, with everything. And I was thinking, in the fiat infrastructure currently, it's a very centralizing force, because if you're a small podcaster, no sponsor would come to you because they don't want to brand and do stuff. So they waste money, basically. They want sales. Again, if they receive money for sales, but the podcaster receives money from them, again, the people don't receive money for the same thing. It's not a direct conflict, what I talked with employees and employers, but it's misalignment. So the incentives are different for both of you. But let's say that same sponsor says, okay, I'm going to do a split payment of my product. And they say, I'm going to give you 10% of each individual sale. And let's say you attract a hardware wallet currently. And they say 10% of each hardware wallet that is bought from your personal QR is going to go to your wallet. And now they have a zero marketing budget. They can give this QR. Every other podcast will have a different QR, so the 10% goes to the individual people. But because they have a zero marketing budget, now it's not centralizing. Also, if I'm a fan of your show and you tell me,
which you are.
I am, obviously. I'm the first coming back, so I really love you guys. I follow, but if I want to, how do I say, give you value back for the content that you give, I have to do a charity right now with value for value, which is great. It's enabling things. But now if you sell something that is valuable for me, if I buy that product that's giving me not only information, but direct properties that I can take in my life, I'm buying the product, so the manufacturer gets their value, but I'm also sponsoring you because you told me that information that's valuable for me. And again, whether you're a viewership of 50 people, out of those 50 people, if they're loyal fans, those could be 50 sales. If you're a big platform, you can sell even more. And now the dynamic completely changes. And that is what I really love. And to tie it with the beginning, this is a completely new reality. And we are just scratching the surfaces of what is actually possible. And not only scratching the surfaces, but I think we're trying to fit this new reality into the infrastructure and language that we are dealing with fiat. which is the wrong way to think about it. It's obviously going to reprice everything, but this is, again, one use case that I was thinking. What is this new reality going to enable, and how are we going to use it? I do believe this reality will happen, but the threshold here is to have an adoption of a lot of people. That will happen, but it will also happen, my vision, because it's much easier, it's much cheaper to transact, it's much more value for every single point in the ecosystem. So it's obviously going to outcompete the current system. Just like when I orange people now, I just send them sats, and when they receive it, I say, what did you see? You see that I did not take any data from you. I just told you, download this and you receive it. Now, it's not important what it is, but compare it to the existing system. Try to create a bank account in this fiat system with that easiness. It's impossible. Because it's impossible, that means that over time, one will outcompete the other. Just people need to realize it. How fast that thing happens, we don't know. But because we have infinite time, that means it's inevitable.
Ivan, I really respect your mind and your perspective, and I think I can see it quite clearly, and it makes a lot of sense. And a couple of things come up for me, and that is time is money, and buy cheap, buy twice. And the reason why I've come up with those is because if your time is at the center of everything, if you like, and you want to earn as much money in the time you have available, yes, you're incentivized, you're right, to work hard and to get those sales, and sort of like so you're going to harness your skills, you're going to harness your communication, you're going to become a better sort of knowledgeable person, because you're going to have to sort of really understand the thing that it is that you're working towards. And also, I'm not going to go to some place and volunteer to work at a place where I know the product is shit and rubbish, and sort of like that's going to be an obstacle to me getting my money and my time. So I'm going to be incentivized to sell products that I know are of value or good quality, because I know people might pay a little bit more if I just work a little bit harder in trying to convince them why they should buy this better product than the cheap shit one. And that's the buy cheap, buy twice thing. So it really does sort of like ripple out into sort of incentivizing people to work hard and actually produce real good quality products. And, you know, if you build a brick wall, it might take a long time, but you want to do it quick to get the money. But it also incentivizes you really to sort of create new technologies to build just as a good quality wall, or even better, quicker, by developing and advancing technologies that can be better than the best currently at a quicker rate, right? I know I'm rambling, but this is like firing off a lot of different things in my mind.
Yeah, and I just wanted to comment on time is money. First of all, time is not money. Time is time.
Yeah.
They want to tell you time is money because if you're an employee, your time is their money. So that's the actual reality. So that's why they say time is money.
I see that. Yeah. Thank you.
And what gives time value? I would say time, what is valuable in time, that the energy in that period can be spent only once. That's it. And the time will pass anyway. That's not the valuable thing. What you do in that time, so the actual work is what's valuable. It's not the time. The time is an abstraction to explain past and present. But what's actually valuable, because if I tell you, okay, I want every income that you make in 1 hour, what are you going to do? You're not going to make any income because I'm going to take all of it. So the time was not valuable. So I cannot take your time. what you do with that time, it is what gives it value. So that's why, and because time is scarce, that means that we need to channel and point that particular energy into a particular direction, because the time will pass again, but what did we do in that time is what gives it value. And that has nothing to do with money. It has everything to do with energy. And that's the beauty of Bitcoin, because Bitcoin, it's also directly connected to energy. And it's connected through, right now, mining it, so the producing of it. Later on, mining of it will be, the energy will be connected to the transactions, because Bitcoin will actually be mined, most of it. So the energy will be connected to transactions on the first layer. But what I'm describing in the Lightning Network is, if I'm paying for your work, again, you're linking the payment or Bitcoin to the work. And again, we're going to move away from the time abstraction, and we're going to focus. The focal point of the whole humanity will become, what are we doing? It's not rent seeking. What are we doing? And the rent seeking is the completely fiat infrastructure. It's optimizing for itself, because we don't want to spend energy. We want to just receive something for nothing. And again, I'm rambling, but that was my thinking around time is money.
Nice. And I think we've proven countless times now in this podcast that all of these thinkings lead actually to Bitcoin. But we also want to put this to the test, Ivan. Before we close the show, we usually do the All Roads Lead Back to Bitcoin challenge, where we're going to give you a word and you're going to associate this to Bitcoin. And we thought, a bit biased on your article, that the word logistics would be a nice word for you to link back to Bitcoin.
Okay, that's easy for me. Like in the article, logistics is things moving through time and space, and that is work. And when we connect things moving through time and space to something that can be at any time, in any space, almost. We are down to earth currently with our Bitcoin, but this is actually a completely new logistics reality, if I can say that. So Bitcoin is, again, it's going to reshape everything, because we think in those abstractions. It's not going to change reality. How we measure reality and how we optimize reality is going to completely change.
Mate, that's perfect. And you're right, it was easy. You went straight into it. And yeah, it makes sense. And you're completely right. And mate, thank you so much for coming back here at Rabbit Hole Stories and for surrendering your finite time with us. And the same goes to our listeners, or wherever you're sort of watching us. So Ivan, before we shut, bro, is there anything you want to share, and where can people find you, and where can they find these instant settlement articles that you've written?
Yeah, I publish them with Bitcoin Magazine. Again, what they are currently, maybe I disagree with some of their vision, but it's a platform. So that's what I wanted to use. And they can read them. I would say they're long, and you have to really immerse yourself into the thinking. But the thinking really is, how do I disconnect my brain from thinking in fiat terms, and how do I think completely in this new system? And that was my thinking in writing those. And anybody can connect to me on nostr, on Twitter is where I'm most visible, but I have LinkedIn, I have Facebook, so yeah.
Nice one. And don't worry, guys, all the links you need to find Ivan in these articles will be linked in whatever sort of format we've distributed this podcast. So once again, Ivan, thank you very much. And for everyone else, stay curious.